Thank you for joining me for this midweek edition of TopSpin News. If you're not familiar with this channel, my name is Isaiah, and this is the show where tennis fans come to keep up. Every Saturday I update you on the latest tennis news from the past week, and I give you my honest, usually unpopular opinions. Today we're going to be doing a tier list of the top male tennis players of all time, so let's go ahead and get into that video.
Image is everything.
I'm going to drop Jimmy Connors in the A tier here. He was the top ATP ranked player for a consecutive 160 weeks from 74 to 77, and I'll say that again in case you didn't catch it. He was the top ranked player for a consecutive 160 weeks. Not only that, but he holds the record for 109 career titles on the tour, and he won 15 tour level titles in 74. He's a mid to high level A for me. I'm going to put Von Lindell here in the B category. He had over 1,000 career wins, and he had 94 career titles, so those are some crazy stats. He won 15 tour level titles in 82 as well, so in my mind he's a high B, and I'd almost put him at an A. I'm going to put Becker in the B category here. He's one of the most physically gifted players to ever play the game, as well as winning 6 career Grand Slams, so he backs it up with the game on the court too. So he's a mid-level B in my book, however, so I'm going to put him there. Stefan Edberg had one of the smoothest games to ever grace the court, so I'm going to put him in the B category here. He had the best backhand volley, and his serving volley was often unstoppable. It had to be frustrating to be an opponent, so this is an easy B for me. He's another one of my favorites. For Andy Murray here, I know he did just win in Antwerp after coming back from his hip replacement surgery, but in all honesty, he is the worst of the big four. He has a great heart for the game, but compared to the rest of the guys, he is just a high-level D. I know this one might not go over so well, but I'm going to drop Arthur Ashe here in the C tier. He helped break the racial barrier in tennis while facing prejudice nearly his whole life. So it does really hurt me to only put him in the C category, but talent and performance-wise, he doesn't quite stack up with most of these guys, so I am going to keep him in C. Wilander here is a solid B for me. To start his career, his game was often described as absolutely mind-numbing consistency. However, over his career, he did reinvent his game. So, like I said, a solid B for me. Coming into this, I didn't know much about Ken Rosewall, but after a little research, he did have a great career, even though he was banned from the slams for 12 years. So I am going to drop him in at C here. I didn't actually get deep enough to know what that was about, but I'm guessing it maybe had something to do with temper or something illegal, so I am just going to go ahead and put him in C. It actually really does hurt me to put Jim Courier in the C category here. I really do think he was a great player. During the peak of American tennis in the 90s, there was a point when he was considered the best among those. So he's close to a B for me, but I am going to go ahead and put him in C. Pancho Gonzalez, I'm going to drop him in the A category here. This is a little bit out of my time, so I had to do a little studying, but I didn't want to not include a few of these guys on this list because just the fact that they weren't in my era. However, from everything I've seen, at a time when the rich dominated the game, Gonzalez reigned as the most feared player on the tour as a low to middle class Mexican American. Not only that, but he was really good. So in my book, I'm going to put him at mid-level A. Maybe this is too high, maybe this is too low. I'm not exactly sure, but that's where I'm going to put him. Without hesitation here, I'm going to put Roger Federer in the S tier. He has 20 Grand Slams, 103 career titles. If it's a record or something, you can name it, he has it. So I think it's hard to argue this one, an easy S in my book. I'm going to put Leighton Hewitt here in the B category. Actually, his young protege, Alex de Minaur, he's one of my favorite rising stars, and I really see a lot of Hewitt in him. He's one of the fastest and best defensive players the game has ever seen, and I really do see that in de Minaur too. But as for Hewitt, he's a low-level B probably, but I'm going to go ahead and stick him in the B category. Michael Chang's one I feel like I'm going to catch a lot of slack for here for putting him in the D tier, but in my opinion, he was just very consistent, which isn't a bad thing. I'm not playing that off as a bad thing, but it's just boring to watch, and in a time when American tennis was so great, I just don't think he was one of the better ones. So in my book, it's an easy D, but it might be different for you, and I could see that. Rafter here, he honestly is a pretty easy D for me. He spent 1 week ranked as the #1 player. He did win 2 U.S. Open titles and was the runner-up twice at Wimbledon, but like I said, it's not hard to put him in D. Thomas Muster, he's not hard to put into the D category. He only spent 6 weeks as the world #1. However, he is the only Austrian to ever win a Grand Slam. I'd say look out for Thiem, honestly, though. I believe he'll win more than one in his career, knocking Muster off that pedestal. But so he's a mid-level D in my book. Goran Ivanisevic, I mean, he had sort of a storied career here, but not the best. But he did win Wimbledon after receiving a wild card entry, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. And he's the only ever person to do this in a slam. So, although that was an amazing tournament for him, it's still just a solid D for me. I've never really thought that much of Fognini as a tennis player. He did win a slam at the US and Australian Open, and he was a runner-up at 2 other Australian Opens. Yet, for most people, myself included, he never quite did live up to his potential, so an easy D in my book. Although I do enjoy saying Stanislaus the Manislaus, I am going to have to drop him in the D category here. I mean, he probably does have one of the biggest one-hand backhands to ever grace the court, but still playing in an uber tough era, he's just a solid D. As a fan who loves watching American tennis thrive, it is hard to put Andy Roddick in the D category here though. But as he has stated himself, he probably is one of the worst players to ever be a #1 ranked player. He did spend 9 straight seasons in the top 10 though, which is really impressive. And he had one of the best serves the tour has ever seen. So don't let him underrank himself. He is a really great player. But in this list of players with these high level talents, he's just a solid D. I'm going to drop Kafelnikov in the D category here. He does have an Olympic gold medal and he did win 2 Grand Slams. He was never quite a top level player. So it's a solid D for me. Nastase here, I mean, he had a great career, but it was littered with anger-ridden problems where he just gets through a lot of bans and stuff, and it's a real tough player to root for, so I'm going to go ahead and put him as a low-level C in my book. This one was a hard decision for me, but I think I'm putting Nadal in the A tier here. Hear me out for a second before you guys really chew me out. It was a borderline one for me. Nadal has 19 slams, and if you look at his stats, he stacks up with just about anybody. This was mostly an eye test. I put him as a real high-level A, almost an S. This one isn't really that hard for me. I want to put Del Potro in the D category here. I mean, he has had a really solid career that isn't over yet, but he's playing in a real tough era, and it's been riddled with injuries, and his forehand is still one of the best despite those, though, but I am going to put him as a low-level D. I think Novak Djokovic here has a little bit of an underrated career, maybe. Some people don't realize that he has an 87% win percentage in Grand Slams. He's won 54 career big titles, as in Grand Slams, Masters 1000s, and ATP Finals combined. This one's more of an eye test for me because he has less slams than Nadal. But if you watched him play, I do believe Djokovic is superior. Actually, Djokovic is 28 and 26 against Nadal. So this is a borderline A to S here for me. But in my mind, I'm going to call him a low-level S. I'm going to put Agassi in the A category here. This one might be a little biased, but I do still think it's the right choice. His down-the-line two-handed backhand's the best the game's ever seen. Like I said, he's my personal favorite, and for me, an easy choice for the A category. I think this would be a common pick for most people. I'm going to put Pete Sampras in the S category. I mean, he won 10 tournament-level titles in 1994, and he won 8 in 93, 96, and 97. So he's pretty dominant over that stretch. I mean, if you watched him, then you know nobody was better in the big moments than Sampras. And he was the top player out of a very talented generation. So for me, it's an easy pick for S. Rod Laver's one here too. That's just a little bit out of my era per se. So I do know a little bit about him. So I'm going to put him in the A category. Some do consider him to be the greatest of all time. However, I wouldn't stretch it that far personally. However, those people would argue that he was just so good on every surface. But in my mind, he's not quite as elite as the rest of these guys, but he is a solid A. I'm going to drop Borg here in the A category. In my opinion, he's one of the most underrated players to ever play on the tour. I mean, he was really respected by his peers, and he won 13 tour-level titles in 79. And he had 11 Grand Slams. So, I mean, in my book, he's a solid choice for the A category. John McEnroe here, he's another one of my personal favorites, so I'm going to drop him in the A category. He had the best hands to ever play the game and net game to ever step on the court. So, his passion for the game that some just don't quite understand puts him in the A category for me, and he has the stats to back up his talk. So, this is an easy pick for the A category. Roy Emerson here, he's a little out of my generation, but from everything I've seen, he won singles and doubles titles at all 4 majors, which I think is crazy. So I'm going to call him an easy B, and I would almost call him a borderline A, but because I don't know so much, I'm going to put him in B. That could be more my fault than his. Make sure to let me know what you guys think of my tier list in the comment section below. I will leave a link in the description so you can do this for yourself. I'd love for you to share that with me. I think I got them all right. You guys probably don't think that, but that's okay. I think when you guys do it, you realize how hard it is sometimes to put some of your favorite players in the bottom spots, or how hard it is to decide really who the best of the best is when these are all great players. So, no offense to any of these players was intended in this video. They are all great players. If you stuck around in the video this long, you might as well subscribe and tap the bell icon to be notified first when new videos are released. Those new videos are usually released on Saturdays at 8 a.m. Central Time. If you did like this form of video, make sure to let me know in the comments. I would love to do more of these. So I'll see you then.